So we have to get into the bigger issues. And again, let me just remind you that, well, just when we close the show, we'll bring you some great highlights from that committee. The ad hoc committee said by the Speaker of Parliament to look into that vote of censure by the minority. And we know that they've been sitting so far. It's going to be live here on TV3, so make sure you stick and stay with the channel for you to get all the latest update when the Finance Minister, Ken Oforiatta, appears before that committee. But when we're talking about the World Cup, all the matches will be live here. Make sure you get all the latest update. We're talking about 3news.com. Go to the sports tab and then get the latest highlights. And then also the fixtures, and also for Ghana. You know, we played a friendly match yesterday. It was a great one. Now, but let me just introduce my guest for the morning. So I do have a very big man representing government communication as well as the governing New Patriotic Party. Haruna Mohammed is a Deputy General Secretary. How are you?
I'm fine.
Great. And then just beside him, we have Kwame Jantua. He's also a legal practitioner and an energy consultant. He is currently the Political Affairs Director or Chair for the CPP. How are you, sir?
Roland, good morning.
Yeah, great. Abraham Maliba is also a legal practitioner, heads the legal department of the NDC, or Director of Legal NDC, as far as we're concerned. How are you, sir?
You can't afford to be sick in a sick economy, so I'm fine.
I see. Well, happy belated birthday to you as well. You celebrate your birthday on Tuesday, I believe.
Yes, I did.
Oh,
Thank
great,
you.
Great.
You send invitations.
Did you throw a party?
No, nothing
Oh.
like that.
Wow.
How can you
You
throw
were
a
thinking of the
party?
price of rice.
Party
Oh,
and
please don't do that.
I didn't go to the Ministry of Agriculture to buy rice. So.
Yeah, you never patronize it as well. Yeah, but we were covering it fully. But, Mr. Mohammed, there's a lingering issue about, you know, as far as we're concerned, the current state of imports of food, and then the expenditure side in terms of the prices as well. And just yesterday, we had the Bank of Ghana coming out with that missive or directive that they want to reduce supplies or even stop supplies to importers of certain commodities. What do you make of it in the first place, as far as this policy is related?
Thank you very much, Roland. First of all, I would say good morning to the cherished viewership of TV3 and my colleagues here, Lawyer Malva, and then my senior brother, Gentua. We have met on several platforms,
Yes,
and
Oh, you have?
I
Nice.
so much respect him for his views and his positions. Even though I disagree in most of the instances with his positions towards government. And I also say a very good morning to my party and the leadership as well. Well, yesterday we had a release from the Bank of Ghana in respect of forex, stopping of forex to some particular products in terms of import, and how we'll be able to leverage our comparative advantage in terms of certain products in the country. This is not the first time that government or a state agency has taken such a move. During the COVID era, we had taken a certain stance. And when you look at it, you saw that this nose masks and what have you was sold at a very high cost when His Excellency the President, in one of his address to the state, the nation, he did indicated that we want to move away from such particular imports to be able to allow local industries to manufacture same. And we saw that the cost of this particular products came down drastically. And things that were being sold at 5 cities, 3 cities became to 1 city, and some at 50 pesos, and nose marks is in abundance. Many of those things that we were sharing at that time had to come down because we had leveraged our resources in order to be able to get the local people to produce that. This directive is going to strengthen the local industry for us to be able to make sure that our comparative advantage that we have in terms of rice plantation, in terms of vegetable oil, in terms of poultry, and other commodities that have been listed in this particular directives. For example, if you take rice, because we import rice, you know, it affects our FDI, that is the foreign direct investment.
What's the quantum that we tend to import usually?
I would not be able to say the quantum that we import, but this will allow local industries to be able to also process this rice, because if we are not been processing it and we are selling it in its own husk form, and we will intend to now do what we call parboiling. Then when we do this parboiling, we'll be able to do a packaging of this particular product so that we'll be able to move away from this foreign consumption to a local consumption. And this will give much advantage to our local farmers. For example, as I said, I have a lot of rice that I have not yet parboiled.
You mean on a personal
Yes, on a
basis?
personal.
So you have been suffering over the last 6 years.
I do a lot of farming.
Why should it take us 6 years before we come to this point that this is what we needed to do?
The point is that every situation brings itself. When you find yourself in a certain situation, you need to do a
So we had to wait
retrospection.
till we get to the situation.
Not wait. We have always encouraged the consumption of local, made in Ghana products.
Have we?
have always. We have. Unless, of course, you are saying you have never heard that there is an encouragement for us to consume local products. We have said so on several instances. And this is a measure that the Bank of Ghana is taking in order to give us a comparative cost advantage so that we'll be able to move into those particular industries. When I was working with MBSSI, I worked there for 12 years before I had moved. My major point was to make sure that the shea butter should be able to be done and canned so that at least it would not harden up when it is in the distance. I have always majored in those particular areas in my sectors of doing business development services to the states. So these are things that we must also look at. You look at the poultry aspect. You know, we had stopped the exportation of soya beans, and that is a major product too I do from the north. I'm from the north. I'm from Brazil specifically. So I do major of this particular with farm implements, not just with my hands and all that. So this importation was stopped just to support the local poultry industry so that at least we'll be able to get the feed for them. So if this has been done and this directive is coming out, it means that it's going to support more of this particular local industry so that we'll be able to come with this poultry so that we'll be able to consume and import less of this particular product. So I welcome the decision by the Bank of Ghana, and I believe that all of us collectively must look at it and see how we can support government and this particular directive to achieve and inure to the benefit of the people of Ghana.
Mr. Maliba, before the president will come in 2017, you remember the phrase from Gettysburgian economy to one industrialized one had to take us 6 years. When the economy is down, we can't even get a lot of forex for petroleum imports, etc. What do you make of this?
Okay, so let me start by saying good morning to your viewers. It is important to analyze this directive very well. Aren't we putting the cat before the horse?
Meaning what?
That, do you have the capacity to produce these things locally?
But you've always argued that this is what the president should do. He's doing it.
No, wait. Do you have the capacity to produce these goods? And if you have the capacity, in the meantime, that these goods are even in short supply, how are Ghanaians going to survive? In other words, if you stop, in short, you are telling them that you are going to stop the importation of poultry. That's what it means.
Yes.
Because if you don't provide the forex, they can also bring it. Is our poultry industry capable of providing us chicken on daily basis? Is it possible? I thought that government, and don't forget the poultry industry, stakeholders, they have been complaining about even the issue about the feed.
Yeah, they're importing to the feed.
So has government assisted the poultry industry to stand firm and be able to deal with the needs of the people before saying that you want to stop importation? Have you done that? You've not done that. You talk about oil. Your this is one factory has not produced a situation where we have become self-reliant. In other words, there's no industry whose performance has had an effect positively on any of these goods. For you to say that because we are now doing one district, one factory, we produce enough for the country, so let's stop the importation. You've not done that yet. So I see this as
knee-jerk,
pulling the wool to cover the faces of Ghanaians because there's no forex anyway. Are you understanding what I'm saying?
I'm trying to understand.
The thing is not even there for them to say that we won't give you.
So it's much ado about nothing?
It's much ado about nothing. The forex is in short supply. And so they will now create the impression that, oh, if you say you don't get forex, we haven't said we won't give you. We haven't said we won't give you. But it's just simply that the forex is not available. And these people, you know, their modus operandi have a way of trying to always lie to the people and continue to make their policies.
But Mr. Malba, we have to be realistic. Imports increased over the last couple of years, and I have to say over the last 3, 4, 5 years. And to the point that if you go to the sites of the World Bank, the U.S. government, the U.S. States government, etc., State Department, our imports are to the tune of some $2.5 billion US. So if the government says that, look, through the Bank of Ghana, these are the measures in the interim, and you know, I have to apprise you of that this is one of the 12 pointers to make sure, as announced by the president, we rein in and also create some stability for the economy and then the currency. And you're not happy about it. I just don't understand you.
You understand me because I'm saying that this will bring about shortage.
So it's a charade?
Maybe you don't understand, you have to speak the street man's language.
Okay, please speak.
People, when they go to their grocery shops, will not get these products again because we lack the capacity to produce them internally.
So the supply will not
And that's why I told you that is the cat before the horse. But it should have been the horse first and the cat comes, isn't it?
Yeah, so you show our production.
You should engineer this process. No, provide the stakeholders, poultry farmers, let them have their feed, let them, you know, provide incentives for them to be able to produce, to feed us. But as it is now, and as we speak, in most of these areas, we don't have the capacity to produce, to feed the whole nation. I'm not saying that's a good plan or it's not a good policy, but it's a plan that should have come after some policies have been put in place to ensure that we don't suffer from shortage of goods in our grocery shops. The easiest thing to do in this country is to produce tomatoes. Tomatoes is very easy to farm.
And currently we're getting it from Burkina Faso.
Yet, we're getting it from Burkina Faso.
400 million we spent on it.
And tomatoes is the easiest. In fact, you can plant tomatoes in your backyard.
Yeah, true.
And you just plant and leave it. You don't even need to do anything. You come and harvest. Sometimes they grow with weeds very well. Tomatoes can even grow with weeds and you still pluck it. So it's the easier. And yet, we can't do it in this country. So it's not about whether we should stop importation. We want to stop importation. But as a country, have we put in place mechanisms to ensure that we're able to feed ourselves? And that is where I think that the government is pulling a wool over us and making it look like, oh, they are stopping the giving of forex to these importers. But the forex is not even there in the first place. That is the situation.
Yeah, Mr. Jantwa, if you take a look at the items. We're talking about poultry, we're talking about rice, we're talking about some of the big staples. And we want to reduce dependence on importation. Perhaps if we should have done the shoring up of the production, where should we have started from? Is it perhaps reducing taxes on imports for the farmers in terms of the equipment they use in plowing, increasing the subsidies on fertilizer, etc.? Then that will also increase the yield. For example, yesterday on one of the stations, we're told that we even import day-old chicks, or the ones that we use in the poultry industry, from Morocco and Belgium. We can't find them in Ghana.
Roland, good morning to our viewers. Good morning to our two panelists, and thank you for the opportunity. I want to answer your question wearing a different hat.
Which hat is that?
AGI.
Okay.
I'm the chairman of the oil and gas sector, AGI.
Okay.
Now, this week, the Trade and Industry Committee in Parliament had a meeting with GUTA, Chamber of Commerce, and the AGI with regards to how do we look at the escalation of food prices. And they wanted us to give them suggestions as to some of the things that we can look at in terms of bringing food prices down. I would have expected that before the Bank of Ghana came out to discuss this initiative, they would have shown us that they had spoken with our production industries of oil, rice, and poultry. Because remember, because of the imports, a lot of the oil companies here in Ghana reduced their production. Rice reduced their production. Poultry, that one don't even...
You're talking about vegetable oil?
Yes, vegetable oil. Poultry, don't even go there. That one is...
The industry is suffering.
That one is really suffering. So that first point of call is to sit and see, how do we ramp up production? How do we build the capacity to pluck that lack of imports coming in? And yes, I believe that in the initial period, you would find some gaps. But hopefully going forward, those gaps would be able to be blocked by these companies that produce vegetable oil and rice, and some of the lists that have been put on there. But you see, you cannot run away from truth.
Now, which is the truth?
You cannot run from truth, because truth is like pregnancy. It will show. We don't have the forex, full stop. Bank of Ghana should come out and tell us, look, guys, the situation we are in, the quantum of forex we have today would not be able for us to import some of these things. So because of that, let's try and put some mechanism in place to shore up these things. Look, the challenge we see ourselves in is not only a challenge for government. It's a challenge for the people. And as I always keep saying, if you don't bring the people on board, for the people to understand what you're going through, it becomes very difficult.
You didn't listen to the president's address. Since then, even we've had the Minister of Information and a number of government dignitaries going around media houses explaining the 12 pointers, for example. And one of those key issues was making sure that we reduce imports. So I'm trying to situate that conversation with what you're saying.
Do you think the people will believe that we can reduce imports when the poultry industry has been dying? And the poultry industry have been shouting from the top of the mountain tops, come to our aid, come to our aid, come to our aid, way back last year.
Well, maybe now we'll do that.
Now, when it's already finished, when it's already spoiled. My brother says that...
Well, better late than never.
My brother says that, better late than never. Do you know how many people have died? Do you know how many people have lost their businesses? And that is the key. You know how many people have lost their livelihoods? You let's even situate in the poultry industry. You know how many people have lost their livelihoods? When you bring in a benchmark discount value, and companies from India who are bringing in rice are competing and are also benefiting from it, where does your industry stand? You know we do basmati rice. Our basmati rice is very good. They are competing with the Indians. How? Where do you stand? The number of people who have been had to go home because they can't sell because of competition.
Well,
from
now the
imports.
policy is here, Mr. Jantwa.
Now, my brother says they've been encouraging local production. How have you been encouraging it? How? What are the mechanisms you put in place to encourage? The taste buds of Ghanaians have changed. So how do you change those taste buds? What have you put in place? Have you gone to the markets and have you got market women to understand what it means by buying local? Look, brown rice is the most nutritious rice than any other rice. Have we promoted it? Have we promoted
Maybe we have white rice.
Even when the president said government functions, we should be using local rice, have they used local rice? So yeah, the president might say it. It's putting that implementation in place. Does it happen? Does it happen? So maybe the Bank of Ghana, it's a good start. Isn't it a start too late? And once we are able to get forex in, will this particular initiative be held? They need to show us that it is put in policy, not just said, put it in policy. So that when it's put in policy, we can probably go to Parliament and say, this policy has now come. Do a law that can hold it in. So that when the foreign exchange now comes in place, the law is already there. Because is it only through Bank of Ghana that you can get your forex? Is it only through Bank of Ghana? Can't you get forex in other ways? Bank of Ghana doesn't have forex. And there are other forex companies that can give you dollars today. Do you only have to go to Bank of Ghana to get your forex? So it could be a good initiative. But how do we sustain it?
And you are saying it's also an initiative too late in the
Yes,
time.
it's an initiative
you
too
wanted
late.
to make an input.
You see, he says he's a rice farmer.
And other, did you say share? Or,
Yeah,
he's
right.
also, he had been in the business.
He's a farmer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a farmer.
So if he's honest to all of us here, he will tell you that prices of inputs
He's
have
smiling. He's smiling.
quadrupled.
The camera can catch him smiling.
Prices of inputs have quadrupled. As a farmer,
Yeah.
how does that factor in your the products you turn out? Fuel prices for tractors or combine harvesters.
Or even the tractors that come in the tariffs.
Then shortage of fertilizer, we are told, weedicides. So all these things, you have not created a platform for the industry to take off, and yet you are banning the importation of those things. A fully grown chicken, locally produced fully grown chicken, is 80 Ghana cedis. How many people can put that on daily? Because you have to eat the meat every day.
Depending on the type of chicken, whether it's a broiler or whether it's the other one.
So
Layer.
it's higher than
Layer, yes.
Sometimes higher.
Yes.
So I thought there was a limit. So this fully grown chicken, 80 Ghana, a family of 5 or even 3, how long can you eat it? 1.5 days. That is if you are economical. But it's just a 1-day meal. Then tomorrow you go again, 80 Ghana cedis. How much did they increase salaries? 1 cedi, 40 pesos to public servants. And so, you see, the problem has to do with those who are thinking for us. I'm sure, for me, they've gotten to a point they have stopped thinking.
Oh, please.
Yes, they've stopped thinking.
Please.
Yes.
Even if you're against government, you don't have to.
No, they've stopped thinking. They've stopped thinking. Because you had all this period, from 2017 you came to power, to have boosted these industries, for them to be able to deal with these things today.
And actually, even within the period, the importation even shot up.
We are doing 1 million metric tons of rice, I'm told. But Nasia, Wale, he says it comes from those areas. All those places are rice growing areas. why from BC? So what's the problem with government, boosting and assisting farmers to be able to produce at a low cost so that we can now take off as a nation? And so you look at all this, the gamut of things that are happening. Farmers are at a disadvantage, and I do not think that stopping the imports immediately. And look at, they've not even said that we are going to Christmas,
Yeah.
and that's when we eat voraciously.
Yes. We'll try and call Dr. Chansanyaba and get some clarification.
We eat voraciously in Christmas. That's the time that people put on weight. The Christmas period. People don't go to work, they eat. And you are saying that you want us to reduce our intake and not eat Christmas? You've already taken us through a difficult year.
Right.
People are preparing to at least enjoy themselves. You want us to scramble for these things in our shops again? It's no.
Yeah. We'll try and get Oliver, the lead producer, to call Dr. Charles Nyamba. But you are a farmer, so apart from you being a politician, let's be realistic with ourselves. The reality is that I went through a U.S. agro site, and the farmers, when Trump came, were given huge subsidies. So they brought the construction and the assembling of tractors, the Deere tractor and some of those ones, back to America. And then they gave them huge subsidies. So they're able to then export those products into Ghana. The reality is you're still farming. The farmer has a lot of costs in his production. And that cost would mean that they have to compete with imported ones by farmers who are subsidized, either in India or in China, in Vietnam or in Thailand. You know that very well. I see that you're smiling, so that's a good thing. Okay, don't worry. Locally,
I've been to some of these countries.
You've been to some of those countries.
Yeah,
So
I've been there.
So locally too, if you take a cycle of 4 quarters in a year, we have demand going up first quarter, it dips, and then increases last quarter towards Christmas. So we have a cycle like that. Inherent in there are the forex that is needed for the imports.
Yes.
So if you are implementing this policy, the assumption is that there are buffers that have been made for the demand from the local market for these products as substitutes, as far as economic terms are related. And let's be realistic. What did the Minister for Food and Agriculture tell you that they have done? That gives you the assurance that this, when it reduces the import and the demand comes in from consumers locally, it's not going to spiral out of control prices of the few products that are on the market for the consumer.
Roland, thank you very much. I believe that you premix your question on Trump, right? That Trump.
I'm just looking at subsidies generally by the developed countries where we do the importation.
Yes,
from.
and you know, when you started from that angle, because you start from when Trump came, he brought up subsidies. And we all know the era of Trump.
He increased subsidies, not that he just brought up.
Yes, but we all know the era of when Trump was there. At the time that Akufo-Addo came, you know, if you are so honest to the economy and to the people of Ghana, you understand that Akufo-Addo had brought in a lot of support for farmers under the Planting for Food and Jobs.
It should reflect in the prices.
My good brother, are we talking about now or before?
Before.
So even before, you know, how much were you selling fertilizer? You know, NDC. I am telling you, the price of fertilizer was reduced. 50% of the cost was absorbed by government. True or false? That was true. Akufo-Addo did it. We have what we call these farm implements, tractors, combined harvesters. These equipments were made available to some farmers who had gotten these particular implements to go to farm. This impulse you are talking about was reduced. Weedicides and all that were supported. That was this particular era. Now that we are in this particular situation, you are talking about putting us through a 1 year difficult. You kept Ghanaians under Dumso for 4 good years.
Is that where you are going?
No. You can't. Nobody can decide what I have to say.
Who ended Dumso?
We did, because your minister had to
Big
even
liars.
had to even
When you are
run
lying
away.
on television, you don't know that your children are watching you. You are grooming children to also come and lie. Who ended Dumso? You say we did. What did you bring into the M Dumso? Tell me one machine you brought. Tell me one motorbike you brought to M Dumso.
No fight. Please
But
continue.
what kind of lie? And see, you, the producers, I say producers,
Journalists.
journalists, host of the program,
Attack me.
You have left these people to go scot-free. We are saying that they have ended Dumso. When you know that Dumso ended under the NDC.
Which
when
NDC?
this your own Baumia said that.
Which NDC?
Muhammad doesn't
Your
give the
minister
credit.
said if he does not end Dumso, he will resign.
Let's
But
speak on
he
the
has
He did. Why did he resign? If he had ended it, will he resign?
Speak on the substantive.
Well, I would not say he
What
lied,
is the
because he's older than me.
what is the point?
But for that respect,
When you
because
don't know that-
the training that I have
Why?
will not say that. Tell him that he
Mr.
has
Mohammed,
lied.
speak on the
lying.
substantive. There's an issue of forex
Look at this. This thing you have to
reduction
just
or
stop it.
supply.
You are just lying every day.
No, Mr. Amelba, you are also lying. You lie here.
Please.
No, you see,
Which one?
let's be
one did I
very
lie?
circumspect with what we
Which one
say.
did I lie?
Guys.
You sit down here and says that we
Inputs
have
have not
put
gone up.
which inputs at that particular time. Didn't you realize
Mr.
that
Mohammed,
fertilizer
When
was
are we talking?
subsidized?
Are we talking today?
You
Mr.
said
Mohammed.
fertilizer wasn't subsidized. It's not a lie.
Mr. Mohammed.
Look at
It's
this.
not a lie. So let's be very
relax.
circumspect
No,
and
no, no.
respect people.
Yeah.
When you were talking,
Mr.
I was
Mohammed,
quiet.
Can you listen to me?
But
Can
you can't
listen
lie
to
that
me?
you ended
Can you
before.
listen to me? Can you listen to me, Mr.
can't
Mohammed?
lie.
You can't
Mr.
challenge
Mohammed,
me with
please
lies.
listen to me.
Lying.
Please listen to me.
And that's why you are a
Because
liar.
when he was talking,
Listen
I
to
was
me.
quiet and
Listen-
writing.
listen
That's
to
why
me.
you are a liar.
Listen to me.
But you are the most liar in this country. You have lied more than any other person in this
Mr. Mohammed,
country.
are you
No,
listening?
tell him.
Mr. Maliba.
Tell him.
Because you are a
Mr.
liar.
Maliba, I asked a
Because you have lied your way through to government, lie your way through to opposition, and
Look
you
at
are
me.
still lying to the
Look,
people.
Look at those who
My
are
brother,
typical liars saying that we lie our way through.
but that is what you do.
Are you okay?
That is what you do.
Are you okay now? Okay. So I'm asking, what have you heard from the corridors of government that says that the Ministry of Food and Agriculture is going to shut up enough supply because local producers have produced enough so that when those demands are coming from consumers, these restrictions in forex supply to importers could be met locally?
Roland, you know very well that we have what we call the buffer stock. And buffer stock, since we came to government, you realize that government has brought in what we call this warehousing projects, where we have a lot of other products in there. A statement was made here about whether we have encouraged the consumption of this particular made in Ghana in terms of local rice and all that. If you check the consumption of local rice under the Ghana School Feeding Program, you realize that it is basically the local rice and other local products that has been encouraged in terms of what we use to feed our children. And you look at the reserves that we have at buffer stock and other agencies of states, I believe that some reserves and stocks have been made. And government intends to rely on this particular reserves that we would.
Mr. Mohammed,
And
buffer
in
stock
terms of,
owes a lot of supplies.
in terms of, there's difference between owing a supplier and having a stock.
And if a supplier has not been paid, he cannot bring in a new product. So
If the supplier too has not supplied to the buffer stock, he can't owe the buffer stock.
okay.
So if you say they owe, it means that they have supplied products to buffer stock. And you are asking me in terms of what stock measures have been put in place. And because Mr. Amalba wants to eat a lot during the Christmas, and I can assure him that
Please, let's stop the provocation,
he will have that
Mohammed,
food.
let's stop the provocation.
He will have that food to eat during Christmas because government has put in those particular measures. He mentioned about tomatoes, that's something that we can. I'm very surprised. We have the Polugu tomato factory. It was under NDC that they collapsed that particular factory. If you know very well that this particular industry is something that we can all
Can we just speak to the issues and stop the
This
politicking, please?
this is an industry all of us could work on. I believe that they would have been very strong enough to put this particular thing on board. Yesterday, I listened to your station on the 10 p.m. news. And
Ghana Tonight.
Yes, Ghana Tonight. When you were speaking on the matter of the forex, you called the Guta leadership. I did not hear the AGI, where my senior brother had mentioned. Guta had expressed their optimism of this particular policy, and it was on your station. I believe that it is all of us, like he said. It is a collective decision that all of us will encourage and move on to support government. We can't be seen to be pulling from different sizes and expect to get a very good result for all of us. We must all work on, because this is a matter of food and livelihood, and we must all contribute our quota in terms of what we do to make Ghana strong and better for all of us.
All right. Dr. Charles Nyaba is the president for the Peasant Farmers Association. Dr. Charles Nyaba, if you look at the intent of restricting forex supplies to importers of food, based on the numbers you're getting as Peasant Farmers Association or from the production end, do we have enough supply to meet demand amid this likely reduction in imports of food that could come up?
Okay, thanks so much. For us, we think this move should have actually come earlier. We welcome it. Yeah, in terms of whether we have enough available rice at the moment to meet demand, I can't say if foreign imports don't come at all, it will have enough rice to meet the local demand. By then, there are alternatives. In some years back, rice was not our staple food. There are other foods that we can rely on in the short run. And then this will go a long way to now attract private investors to go into the rice sector. After all, we have a lot of land. There were some years we produced, people were not getting market, and then all those people have to drop out of production. So in the short run, fine, there may be shortage of rice in the system, but we think going forward, it's a bold decision that government have taken, and then we encourage them.
In the meantime, what should we be doing to augment production from the supply end for your farmers?
Yeah, so if you look at this year, for instance, irrespective of challenges we had with inputs, with cost of production, people still produce. As we speak, there are a lot of rice farmers who are struggling with combined harvesters to harvest their rice. So we need to increase investment in the area of mechanization services. We have huge tracts of land in Walter, in central region, in northern Ghana, that can be cleared and used for rice production. We need to increase investment, which usually requires capital investment that government need to come in to help farmers who want to go to those areas to clear the lands, prepare the feeder rows, and then also we focus on irrigation. If you look at greater quantities of the rice we are getting during the dry season, it comes from few irrigation projects that we have. From Tono, I think they are the largest two irrigation that rely so much for dry season rice farming. So we need to increase irrigation. Already, this government has initiated the construction of the Polgo multipurpose dam and later on abandoned it. It is a time for us to go back and look at it again. That project alone is covering 24,000 hectares that can be used to grow rice and other staple foods. So we need to also increase investment in those areas. Once we do this, there are a lot of private sector investors who are interested in going into this area. And I bet you, if we continue with that commitment, give ourselves 2-3 years time, Ghana can have enough for our own for that for consumption and for export.
Okay, so by the close of the first quarter of next year, it will mean that on the demand side, we will need a lot of these investments. How soon should they come in? And then can we be in a position to cultivate enough to meet supplies beyond just rice? I think that you're focusing and thinking that people only consume a lot of rice and not the other staples.
Yeah, so in the short run, it doesn't mean that there will not be rice. There will still be rice. But the point I'm making is that consumers who cannot afford, in case there's increase in prices for rice, there are alternatives. For Ghana, we are blessed to have a whole range of foodstuffs that we can stick to. We have the maize, we have the tubers, we have yam, we have plantain. Even we have sorghum and millet that people can rely on. In the past, when you go to most rural areas, it was only during Christmas and special occasions that we eat rice. We rely on all these commodities. In recent times, that people develop so much taste for rice that they can do the rice. So I think if it becomes so expensive for people not being able to afford, it is time for us to create market for those other commodities. Now, in the medium term, if investment is increased in those areas, we'll come back. Okay? And I don't think we should necessarily just consume only rice. Those healthy foods, we need to also promote them as well. So for us, we already had a platform we call a Competitive African Rice Platform, which was supported and being launched by Europe. We have a lot of the rice stakeholders on that platform. And I think already within ourselves, we had already planned to see how we bring some kind of a transformation in the rice industry. Okay. And we are doing that within ourselves. So if government is now coming in to limit importation, then that's an opportunity for us to actually improve on what we plan to do.
Well, thank you very much. Dr. Charles Nyaba with the Peasant Farmers Association. You wanted to add something?
There's nothing that is further than the truth and simple. Under the NDC, we gave cocoa farmers free fertilizer. Everybody knows this. They came and started selling to them. Understand?
They reduced the subsidy.
Are they still not selling to them? So, if you then come and say that under the NDC, fertilizer was not subsidized, you are not. We, under our 10, we gave to them free of charge. That's how to build the industry, to ensure that the industry is able to stand firm. That's what I want to say.
Right. Roland, if I may.
Sorry, please, is it only cocoa farmers we have in Ghana? We have other farmers. We have other people who do cereal,
right?
Other people who do other deep-rooted crops. Yeah. If you give only cocoa farmers, do you know the kind of support that goes into the cocoa industry? Do you know what kind of package that we have in the cocoa industry? So if you pick one of those particular package to support them, you don't necessarily say that farmers were supported.
Mr. Mohammed, I remember even to the point that there were concerns that some of those fertilizers that were meant for cocoa were even going to some other subsectors of agriculture.
Yeah, but I am born out of famine. My father gave birth to me in a Jura because out of famine. So I know, yes.
Some of us were not related to farmers or something.
We don't know.
No, the point is that if you say you are subsidizing cocoa is not the only crop that we farm in Ghana.
Mohammed, today you have been fighting farm.
No, you know, I restricted myself to have respect. You get the point. And when I get a certain stage, if you don't respect yourself and then you ask him, I'm a very young guy that respects a lot. But if you move out of that year, I give it to you.
No, fighting.
Yes.
If you assume Nelson will not fight like this.
No, it's not fight. I'm responding.
Roland, this back and forth has not helped anybody.
So what's the point?
The point I want to make is that, in as much as we're talking about rice, we should also look at other products.
Yeah, the other products.
Most important thing is the turbidity of our water bodies. It's key. If we are growing tomatoes, Western region and all that, and we are using these types of galamsey waters, we have to do that test. There needs to be a plan in place. I always say, okay, we want to increase production in different vegetables and crops. Have we done the plan? Have we said, okay, Ashanti region, this is what we know you do best. Concentrate on this. Western region, concentrate on this. Volta region, concentrate on this. North, concentrate on this. In view, taking into mind the turbidity of the water that we need, especially for rice. If we don't do that, we are going to create huge problems.
So that is why you say that they have to carry the people along.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I think we need to be told what really is the bigger plan.
What is the bigger plan?
These look at ad hoc.
And Roland, this is an opportunity for not only government, but everybody, every stakeholder to sit and say, what is the plan, especially agriculture? And put a plan in place that now goes forward, not only for today, but into the future. So, the MPP have brought in planting for food and jobs. What is it in this planting for food and jobs that the people can see it is something that will take us forward? Who is talking about it today with where we find ourselves in terms of agriculture? And for me, that is most important. It's not we did this and we didn't do this and you did. That isn't important. What is important is how do we build agriculture in this country so that we have to be able, we can now lower imports. If we don't do that.
So it's a bigger plan.
If we don't do that, we are chasing our tail.
All right. There's a bigger conversation about payments made in excess of $100 million. We're talking about its revenue for the GMPC. At the ad hoc committee that is looking into the censure of the finance minister, well, the questions were raised that payment into an offshore account, whether should have gone through proper structures as laid out in the Petroleum Revenue Management Act. We'll take a look at that when we come back from this break.